So, when my friend Ian and I were idealist students, we sat down and decided to make the world a better place, as you do, and we decided that the best way that two developers could make the world a better place would be to remove some JavaScript from it. The web is the greatest application distribution platform on Earth, and it is a stain on our profession that it currently takes 5 different programming languages and at least 3 frameworks to get anything done at all. All you should need to know is how to program. Ideally, you should know a nice, friendly, easy-to-read language that's not full of unpleasant surprises, so there was an obvious candidate. So we built a tool for building full-stack web apps with nothing but Python. We built an interface designer, so you could design what your app looks like visually. We let you run your code in Python on the client side and interact with like the text boxes, checkboxes, buttons on your page just as Python objects. We let you run Python server side. We have a built-in database with a pure Python API, all deployed to the cloud in one click. But today I want to talk about this client-side Python code. If you're going to drive the objects on your web page as Python objects, then you're going to have to run Python in the browser. And if you're going to run something in the browser, it's going to have to be JavaScript. Thankfully, there is this great open source project called Sculpt, which can compile Python to JavaScript. So you can write your application code in Python, and we can compile it to JavaScript so it runs in your users' browsers. So we can give Sculpt a Python object, and it will represent that with a JavaScript object. We can give it a Python function. It will generate a JavaScript function that your browser can run. But there is one problem. JavaScript, in its infinite wisdom, is 100% non-blocking. And if you're going to have to do something that's going to take some time, then you're going to need a callback. Here's some code you might write any day in Python. So get a row from the database. If it's not there, throw an error. Here's how you write that in JavaScript. I count 3 nested callbacks, and I am not exaggerating here. This was copied and pasted from the first page of the Postgres JavaScript API documentation. But we have a Python to JavaScript compiler, and it's open source, so why not try to turn this into this automatically? So we git clone and start exploring. It turns out that Sculpt has a classic compiler architecture based, unsurprisingly, on CPython. It's got a parser that takes Python code and produces a parse tree. By the way, these are the file names in the Sculpt source tree if you're interested. And then it turns this parse tree into an abstract syntax tree made up of things you probably recognize, variable assignments, function definitions, function calls, and so on. And then it's got a compiler that walks this tree and spits out JavaScript. So this compiler is the thing we're going to have to modify to support non-blocking execution. So the first thing we do is we invent a new JavaScript class that a function can return to say, I'm returning, but I'm not done yet, I'm just blocked. And we call that a suspension. And then we can modify the compiler so every time it sees a function call, it generates JavaScript like this. So it calls the function and it looks at the return value and sees, okay, well, is this a suspension? Because if it's a suspension, then we're blocking, and I'm going to have to suspend myself. So it saves all its local variables, it saves its temporaries, it saves its exception state, and it returns all of that in a new suspension from this function. And so our caller is going to recognize that we have suspended, and that it's going to have to suspend as well, and so on, all the way back to the JavaScript runtime. And then when the operation is completed, so in this case, the database has come back with an answer, then we just resume the suspension. And this restores all the local variables, jumps back to the right point in the function, and resumes the original suspension, which restores its variables, jumps back to the right point in the function, and so on, until we can resume executing normally. And so this is how we turn simple blocking Python into non-blocking JavaScript, so you don't have to. This has obviously been a very simple overview. If you're interested, I urge you to check out sculpt.org. I'm one of the maintainers now, and we're always looking for new contributors. And if you're just fed up to the back teeth of this whole JavaScript thing and you want to build full-stack web apps in nothing but Python, please do come check us out at anvil.works. Thank you very much.